Happy Tuesday, everybody. This is a special Chips and Dish special edition. Ladies and gentlemen, our prayers, our Philadelphia Phillies prayers have been answered. JT REALMUTO is back with the Phillies, according to Todd Zolecki. Will be signing a 5-year, $115.5 million contract to remain a Philadelphia Philly. I am joined by my good buddy Don Conaway to break it down here on the All About the Birds Network. It is not all about the birds all the time. It is just all about Philadelphia sports. Big Philadelphia news.
This is huge. It's huge news for the team that, essentially sold their soul by selling, by including Sixto Sanchez in that deal. This became inevitable that it was going to have to be. It was a non-starter to not have this extension be part of that deal if you were going to give away a price talent like that. So for me, I was not very optimistic that this day would come early in the offseason.
It was so conflicting. That's part of my issue. It was so conflicting. You listen to this ownership group and, we can't, because of COVID, we can't afford to re-sign him. Okay. Well, you need to put a product on the field.
Well, but, and I very clearly remember them sitting on that dugout in Clearwater talking about stupid money. Stupid money. So I don't want to hear that you want to talk about, whatever it is. This deal had to happen in order for that.
Yep.
In order for that trade to ever make sense.
Absolutely. And he turned out to be a quality player. So if you're in the win now mentality, if you're going to sign Bryce Harper to the contract that you signed him to, and you need the pieces to go around him. Right. And Bryce Harper lobbying, right? JT REALMUTO needs to be signed. Every single person that they brought in, JT REALMUTO needs to be signed. Closers.
Archie Bradley kind of won the internet, with his initial tweet. So, and I think him seeing, I think around baseball, I think they see the value of that player, like his. And I'm not a big like super statistical guy, but his wins above replacement are light years ahead of the next guy.
There are certain, for me, there's certain positions in sports, like in sports in general, that you have to be solid at, right? Yeah. We know quarterback, you got to be solid at. Goalie, you have to be solid at. To me, catcher on a baseball team is one of those positions. You look at the run the Phillies had early on, back in the day, and I say that, we're talking the 2000s. It's because, yes, you had Ryan Howard. Yes, you had Chase Utley. Yes, you had Jimmy Rollins. But you had Carlos Ruiz managing pitchers. He couldn't hit worth a lick, but you had him managing pitchers. JT REALMUTO is that catcher and can hit.
You saw, and I'll speak from a perspective of having played that position in college and knowing that there is so much of that position that is, it goes under the radar, but knowing what pitches to call in what situations, knowing how to position the defense, knowing where your players are, and knowing the plays that could potentially happen before they happen. This is a player who consistently has done that throughout his career and has put himself in a position, there is not another catcher in Major League Baseball that is even close.
Not even close. And
I'll tell you what, where I was most fearful was seeing the Mets ownership transition and seeing Steve Cohen come in with huge money. I saw that, and I had listened to Buster Olney early in the summer, and him talking about, this is a potential landing spot for him because of the money that will be available, because of, they're going to want to come in and make a big splash. And listen, they got James McCann, who is, a solid major league player.
He's no schlub. He's no schlub.
Right. And he will make an impact on that pitching staff. And that pitching staff in New York, and this is something we'll get into in a minute, but for me, you have to be solid up the middle. And this was an essential move if you plan on developing young pitching talent like they have with Spencer Howard. That's a guy that you have to groom in the mold
Absolutely.
of an Aaron Nola, in a mold of, but he's got to be, I don't think he's a 1A pitcher, but he's a solid 2 and 3, and he's a guy you can build the back end of your staff around.
Well, so talking about building things, right? So some more information, according to John Clark and his source, are confirming a little bit more about the contract that JT Realmuto signed. So we see 5 years, we see $115.5 million, and you get worried that you're handcuffing yourself to just a couple of positions.
Right.
Well, number one, and this is, I'm reading it right from John Clark's Twitter, the contract has no buyouts and no options. So number one, he's here.
He's here. And I think,
and he wanted to be here.
And that's big. He wanted to be here. And I think for him, I think it's got to be, he saw the writing on the wall when, you know, if they're going to commit that amount of money to Bryce Harper, and you saw on the field him outwardly professing his love for him, I think for me, I love the way that Harper handled it, because he essentially put the team in a position that
where there was, as Jason is saying, as Jason is saying right here, this was a deal that had to get done. If it didn't get done and somehow JT Realmuto ended up as a Met, ended up as a Yankee, ended up as a Brave, then you were going to have Bryce Harper demanding a trade out of his contract within the next year or two. However, that's not a problem.
Yeah, I think that's, you know, for me, I love the middle of that lineup, especially when you can have when you can fit in Realmuto and Hoskins and Harper, and you know, in my mind, I hope that they push hard to bring Didi Gregorius back, considering what he brings on both ends. You know, he brings left-handed back.
One thing that I like, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but what I was going to say about the contract piece now, this is something that I want to share. He is deferring. JT Realmuto is deferring. So he makes, with this new contract, about $23.1 million a year, highest paid catcher in Major League Baseball history. For the 2021 season, he is taking half of that and moving it to 2026. So he's taking a pay cut this season, which leaves availability to bring in another key piece.
Right. It leaves them the flexibility to be able to go and bring Didi Gregorius back at a rate that is good for him and the team. It also gives them the ability to continue to build the back end of the bullpen, which is, listen, if there was anything last year that you tuned in, if you got to the 6th inning, it was like a wing and a prayer to hold. And there were so many times where that game, literally, they would get to the 6th inning, have a lead, and it would fall apart.
Absolutely.
It would fall apart in like horrific
regardless of what the lead was. We're not talking like 2-3 run leads a little bit. We're talking sometimes you had 9, 10, 11 run leads and you still blew it.
And they still blew it. And I think that, you know, the move, the Archie Bradley move, bringing him in to kind of start to begin to solidify that back of the bullpen, I think is going to be a huge move for them moving forward, for this year.
Yeah. Now looking at the bullpen as it stands. All right. So let's look at the lineup, because my big question that I want to ask is JT Realmuto is back. We know some of the other pieces. Are the Philadelphia Phillies going to be solid competitors in the East this year?
I think they can be.
So let's look at it, right? So answer the question, then we'll break it down by position.
Sure.
So you say they can be.
I think they can be. I think the Mets with the Mets getting Lindor, I think is a huge move for them. They still have to sign him. They still have to extend him.
Right.
And I think their their starting lineup, their starting pitchers are solid. I mean that Mets lineup is going to be. It's kind of like a murderer's row of pitchers. So you're going to have offense to pull up any kind of runs to be able to be competitive. And I think if there's a team that you want to model around building young talent, I think you look no further than the Braves. The Braves have done that year after year after year.
They've built with their bullpen, exactly. Not their bullpen, with their farm system.
They built with their farm system.
We know, having Dave Dombrowski, the farm system is simply chess piece pawns for him to trade and wheel and deal however he wants. Even with that, this team's farm system is still bone dry.
So I think he's in a dichotomy where he's normally, like, he is notorious for literally just selling off piece after piece after piece to win now. Problem is that he came to an organization where there aren't as many chess pieces to play with.
Absolutely.
So I think this is where you're going to see him be creative in terms of bringing guys in that are, that fall under the analytics piece of this, where they're going to have to see, what kind of versatility does this guy bring off the bench? How many positions can he play? Can he switch it? I think they're going to have to look at a lot of those positions to see and think about where they can fill out their roster. But that being said, there's not a whole lot of flexibility because they have a lot of guys under contract.
And it's tough because, they brought up Alec Boehm last year. Besides that, I don't know how much quality talent is in the minor league system. And we especially don't know because you lost a whole season because of COVID. The minor leagues didn't play last year. Right. So you just had this long extended roster and this group of players who were kind of sitting on a bubble somewhere in case they were ready to go up. Right. But you're talking about players who are 18 months removed from playing competitive baseball.
Right.
So that's something that we definitely have to consider.
Yeah. And I think you're going to see Rhys Hoskins at first base primarily. You're going to see Segura at second base primarily. You're going to see Boehm at third. I think the big thing for me will be at shortstop, because the things that Didi Gregorius brings to the defensive part of the field, combined with how productive he is at the plate, to me, I like him better than I like Andrelton Simmons. Although they're kind of the same age, I feel like he's more productive on both sides of the field, where Andrelton Simmons is very good defensively, but you're not going to get a ton of pop off of his bat in that lineup.
So you don't see Kingery playing second, Segura moving back to shortstop.
I don't.
So where you have Kingery in the outfield?
I think he's your jack of all trades and your master of none. He, to me, is a guy that I think they projected as when they gave him that contract, they were projecting a guy that was going to be an everyday player.
Right,
and
sure.
When they put him out there, he wasn't even close. And I think they're kind of pulling back on that a little bit. I think you're going to see him a little bit. He's going to be the guy that's going to spell guys on days off. He's going to play second. He's going to play third. He's going to play short, and he'll play outfield. I mean,
I'm looking at various projected lineups for the 2021 season. Again, the internet's great, especially as a sports personality, because a lot of people do the work for you and you just have to say the words. Right. So most of these projected lineups have the following. Obviously, you've got Rhys Hoskins at first base. They have Kingery as your everyday starting second baseman. They have Segura as your everyday starting shortstop, which I do see as the possibility because there's nobody better on the bench.
Right. And I think that's
so as the lineup stands right now, there's nobody better on the bench that could do the job better than Kingery.
Correct.
Now, do they go out and get somebody? God, I hope so. And I hope it's Didi Gregorius. I do.
Yeah, and I think with the dimensions of Citizens Bank Park, I think it feeds into that short porch in right, feeds into his his left-handed bat.
Right.
And he also gives you that flexibility in the middle of the lineup now, with that the rule change where you're not going to be you have the relief pitchers have to pitch it to at least 3 batters. I think having that ability to put him and alternate, left, right, and bat him second, but you can go right, left, right.
Absolutely.
And you create a real big problem in the middle of that lineup. To me, he seems like a no-brainer to bring back.
Right. So then, we have to go with the understanding of what they have right now. I hope Didi Gregorius is back as our shortstop.
Right.
I don't know right now if he's going to be. Mm-hmm. So most of these places are saying Kingery second, Segura at short, third base is Bone. We know that. Obviously, we got Harper, we got McCutchen as your corner outfielders.
Right.
Center fielder is projected Roman Quinn. That to me is another weakness. Yes. I think that is he needs to be a bench player coming off of the bench.
Right.
Point blank. You got to get at least one more quality outfielder. You got to shore up the shortstop position. And then you got to talk about the pitching staff. Who's throwing to JT Realmuto?
Right. So, I mean, for me, I look at like if I read you the names that are listed on the Phillies bullpen on right now, there's a bunch of guys that you either don't want to talk about or don't even know who they are.
And even the guys that they brought in, there are major red flags about each of the players that they brought in, with the exception of Archie.
Right. But I mean, how much do you really want to see, Ranger Suarez and, Connor Brogdon? Like, Connor Brogdon is a young guy. So I'm not going to.
I don't want to see Samuel Coonrad. Hector Neris, we know, is not a closer. That's why Bradley is your closer.
Right.
I think that Adam Morgan, nobody on this pitching bullpen staff is outside of Archie Bradley, who was a great pickup.
Right. But
nobody in this bullpen is going to do the job that they need to do.
No one is going to be that bridge. It's going to fill in that Ryan Madsen role to get to Archie Bradley. So
then you look at the starters, and we're in the same position that we were last year, right? You've got a great 1-2 punch in Nola and Wheeler.
Right.
Eflin is a third starter, would be a fourth or fifth on most teams.
Yeah.
Spencer Howard is young, but he's your number 5. And then you get the fungus that won't go away.
How does this guy?
How does he have a job?
He steals money from this organization every year.
Damn year.
In my I don't get what the obsession with him is, because they've tried him as a starter, they've tried him as a setup guy, they've tried him
as a long-term reliever,
as a middle reliever, as a long reliever, as a closer. They've, in my mind, you have exhausted all of your possibilities with Vince Velasquez.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I don't get why I'm looking at a bunch of guys who, are in their late 30s, but guys I would trust. Honestly, I would rather trust a guy like Cole Hamels I
won't go that far.
37, but Vince Velasquez versus a 37-year-old Cole Hamels,
maybe.
I'm making that comparison because it's completely outlandish. Cole Hamels is, trending on his way out of the league. But
absolutely.
How bad is it that I have to compare him to a guy that's exhausting the end of his career?
And that's the Philadelphia loyalty. Hell, bring me back a Brett Myers if he still wants to pitch. He can leave his metal rock band to pitch. I want anybody besides Vincent Velasquez. He, to me, is that player that just will not go away.
Yeah,
he's the JJ Arcega-Whiteside of the Philadelphia Phillies. He's the Alshon Jeffrey of the Philadelphia Phillies.
It just, to me, that move made absolutely no sense. I mean, I would rather see somebody from your farm system.
Yeah. So crunching the numbers a little bit here, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Phillies payroll right now with the REALMUTO signing is about $179 million.
Right.
Okay? Because we don't know the salary cap level, they spent about $204 million last season with their roster.
Okay.
So that leaves about $25 million left to go.
Right.
To get to that number. I mean, again, we don't know the number specifically, but that's the numbers.
Right.
You with $25 million can get a shortstop. You can get a legitimate number 3 or 4 starting pitcher.
Yeah.
You can get some relief pitching arms. This team is a couple steps away, but they are within reach of those steps. You just now need to get Dombrowski has got to have the ability to pull the rest of the money.
Yeah. I mean, I look at a guy like even like you have a guy that like Brandon Workman is still out there. He's a 32-year-old relief pitcher. Sure. Tyler Clippard, who, pitched decent innings in the back end of the Nationals bullpen. There's guys out there. So if you're telling me we got to split up $25 million and pull together a shortstop and some back end, relief for this bullpen, it can be done.
It can be. They just have to do it. John Middleton has actually got to. I think that at this point he goes, okay, we signed JT Realmuto, and Dombrowski's going to say, okay, well, about the rest of the roster, and that's going to surprise John Middleton. Like, the what now?
We don't have guys.
I thought that was it. Right. I thought JT Realmuto was 3 players.
No, like I said at the beginning, it's a big deal. But it can't be the end of this roster is far from complete. And you're talking less than a month until they start pitchers and catchers.
At least you now know who you have, and it's not the learning pains all over again. And when you have a coach, when you have a manager like Girardi, who is one of the most solid catchers to ever play the game, that's, again, I mentioned it at the top of this. That is a position that is vital on any organization. If you don't have a good catch, going into the season with Andrew Knapp as your starting catcher, this team wasn't going to win anything.
I was just about to say that honestly, that move to me doesn't make a whole lot of sense. He brings you nothing. I mean, his bat is he consistently hits, below 130 every year. He's a C- catcher. Yep. And thank God he only plays, on Sundays after night games, after Saturday night games. But I mean, to me, like that move to bring back that guy, I feel like that was just like the easy, lazy move. To just
again, you want to talk about players who are just always there. I don't remember a time where Andrew Knapp wasn't a Philadelphia Philly.
Right. It's beyond me. I mean, I don't, I would have had a guy like Wilson Ramos, who was here for, a hot minute, to have him come back. At least he would give you some pop off the bench as a DH during the interleague games, and to give you at least a viable offensive option on those day games after night games. But so Andrew Knapp made his debut in 2017.
So he hasn't been with us that long. He's still 29 years old. He's still a young guy.
Right.
It's just that I feel like he's always been around. And what's exciting is that I don't have to, he can spell JT Realmuto for the next couple of years. Right. He can learn this. But right now, the bringing back of JT Realmuto was, as Jason said a couple minutes ago, It was a no-brainer. It was a mandatory deal. And I look at Twitter and I see people go, well, they're listening to their fans, right? The Sixers are listening to their fans. The Phillies are listening to their fans. That's a whole nother Monday night episode when the Eagles finally listen to their fans and get rid of Howie Roseman. However, this was a move that if you didn't do, eventually fans are going to be allowed back into the ballpark. You would have riots in the stands.
There was no way that this organization would have been able to spin this signing if it wasn't with the Phillies.
Right.
If it was with any other team, they were going to get crushed because of not only what he brings to the team in the locker room, on the field, at the plate, but what you gave up and what that player has turned into.
Absolutely.
Sixto Sanchez looks like a guy that's going to be a top of the rotation guy for the Marlins for the next 10 years.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And you gave him up for JT Realmuto. So if you had let JT Realmuto go, then you gave away a major cog in your farm system for nothing, for 1 or 2 seasons of competitive baseball. Now with this, we know that at least for the next 5 years with Harper, with Realmuto, now you can avoid the arbitration and continue to sign Rhys Haskins unless he continues to struggle, in which case you got to look for a first baseman.
Right. And I think if he starts to struggle and they decide to move him out of first base, I think you're going to see Bohm move.
Right.
You're going to see Bohm move there, and I think you're going to see Segura go to third.
And you can even see as Realmuto goes on in this contract how many times have we seen catchers move to first base after the knees go?
Yeah, absolutely.
There's options. There's options. Without signing Realmuto, there's no options. This move had to get done.
And I think they're positioned well if MLB ever gets wise to change the rules. And I'm on the universal DH. Mm-hmm. I'm on the side of just implementing it universally across the league. And if MLB ever gets wise to that would put them in an even better spot because they can spell him on days off and give him days off that he doesn't have to be out of the lineup.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So again, we wanted to do a quick hitter, hear it all about the Birds and Chips and Dish. We like to break you the big news. There are definitely still some roster holes. This team, like we were saying a little earlier, it needs at least 3 quality starters. I think you have 2.5 right now.
Yeah.
Mara would like to say hi, Uncle Don.
Hello.
We've been all about the family here recently.
All about the families.
And JT Realmuto stays in this Philadelphia Phillies family. Anything else you want to add? I know it's January. We have a snowstorm coming in, but we're talking baseball.
Listen, as a former baseball player, I'm always kind of jonesing for the first days of pitchers and catchers in Florida and seeing the palm trees and the green grass. I'm going to leave it with this. I am hopefully optimistic for this team that they can be competitive, but at the same time, cautiously optimistic because because we've watched this team over the last couple seasons and see how that played out.
Right. We know priority-wise, the bullpen is next. Right. The bullpen is absolutely next, and they got to still continue to add pieces and quality pieces. So, quality pieces are there, and they need to get a shortstop. We'll see what happens in the oncoming days. But again, breaking news, JT Realmuto re-signs with the Philadelphia Phillies, 5 years, $115.5 million. He is your catcher for a long time to come. I am Chip, Chips and Dish, Chip for the Birds. We got Don, Mr. Seaway Science, breaking it all down. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget, we are live every single Wednesday night on our normal Eagles weekly show. We got a lot of coaching stuff to talk about. It'll be me, Phil, Johnny, and Jeff. So we'll say go Birds. I will say ring the bell.
Ring the bell.
JT Real Muto sticking around. We will catch you next time, my friends. And, keep chipping away at life. I'll sneak in a little Tuesday afternoon corniness. See you guys soon.